Book 101 review. Book 101 is all about the books that I've read for the last 40 years. And today I have my special guest. One of his advocacy guiding people to the hidden path, freedom, and purpose of their own terms, other than Mr. Matthew Strunk.
Howdy, howdy.
Welcome on Book 101, Mr. Matthew. And can you please introduce more about yourself at that I mess?
Yeah, no, definitely appreciate it. Yeah, name's Matt Strunk. I would probably classify myself as a recovering serial entrepreneur. I started and sold lots of companies. I bought companies, ran companies, done all the things. And these last few years, I've been really focused on trying to figure out how to live a life that's a little bit more fulfilling on my terms instead of just doing the things I thought I was supposed to do. And now I help others do the same, really get themselves organized to live a life on their terms. And so yeah, through coaching and content, that's where I live now.
Mr. Matthew Strong, thank you so much for sharing your knowledge and wisdom to the world. And today, let's talk about the dirty secret of success. Why having it all can still leave you empty. Tell us the dirty secret of success. What is that secret, and why is too hard for high achievers to talk about?
Yeah, so I guess to best explain it, to provide context, it starts when I was much younger. I grew up, in a poor family, didn't have a whole lot. When I was 19, I decided to start my first business because, from what I could tell in my life, the thing that I was missing was money and wealth and status, and all the people that had those things seemed to be doing the things I wish I could do. So I needed to figure out a way to achieve those things so I could finally live a good life. That was the thought process, at least. So I started some companies, I failed, started companies, failed, and fast forward about a decade, and I started some companies that actually succeeded and scaled, and the Inc. 5000 fastest growing company awards, and doing multiple seven figures in like our second year, and you know, I did all of the things that I thought I was supposed to do to get the things I figured I should want, and even after making all the money and achieving the awards and the status and all that stuff, I never really felt any more fulfilled than I did when I was just the poor kid who didn't have anything. So how is it that on both sides of success I felt kind of lost and like something was missing? And that's, kind of when I realized that uh what I was looking for in life wasn't necessarily more money or more status. It was alignment with what it is I actually cared about. But without getting really straight on what that was, I was basically living a life fueled off of trying to impress others and fueled off of a chip on my shoulder. And that really left me kind of, in a tough place. And I think for high performers, it's tough because when you have those things, it feels almost arrogant or ignorant or something to suggest that it's not everything you wanted. You know what I mean? Like, I don't want to seem like I'm not thankful for what I have, but still I want to be able to talk about it so that other people who might be feeling that way can understand they're not alone. So it's a weird spot, I think, because of that. You don't want to be like, oh, I guess first world problems or that kind of thing. And that's kind of the dirty secret of success, is it can leave you feeling unfulfilled afterwards and not a whole lot of people to talk to about it.
The phrase having it all is a powerful myth. What does that phrase typically include, and why does checking all those boxes often lead to a feeling of emptiness instead of fulfillment?
Yeah, I mean, to me, I think, in society, at least for myself growing up, I think we're kind of painted a picture of what success looks like, and it's typically wealth, I think. It's financial freedom, being able to do things on with your own time and everything else. It's having the really nice house, having the nice cars, having the nice family, like, status, awards, people who admire you. Like, to me, at least growing up, those were the tangible things of like what success looked like. But yeah, I think it's dangerous because it gets you to start chasing this external measure of success. And what you find is that when you achieve something, you just punt the goal posts down the field. You just kick the soccer ball further down. So you never actually make it to anywhere. And that's why I feel like you see even these billionaires who are, openly not satisfied in life. And it's like, well, how? You have everything. You have billions of dollars. And it's like, yeah, because they're chasing these external mechanisms of success instead of looking inward as to what actually matters to them. And I think that's where that myth kind of lies, is like, you know, you can have it all, but none of that matters if it's not aligned with what you actually want on the inside of yourself. And so for me, I needed to stop looking out there for fulfillment and happiness and all those things. And I needed to turn inward and look more so at myself to figure out what it is I actually wanted. And that's when things started to click much better for me in my life, um, even though they might not look as sexy on the outside.
Mr. Math, what are the first subtle signs that someone is on the path of this kind of successful emptiness? What should people be watching for their own lives?
It's a good question. I think when you find that you're setting goals, you're achieving the goals, and there's really no period of reflection or happiness around it, if that makes sense. Like it almost feels empty. So like, maybe you set an income target and then you hit that income target, but by the time you hit that income target, you've set a new one already because that one's no longer good enough because of whatever. The second warning sign I would see is when you find yourself comparing your own life to other lives. So even for myself, I found myself in that place where, oh, I sold a company for multiple seven figures. Like this is awesome, but not as good as this guy who sold it for eight figures or nine figures. And it's like you're always comparing against the thing that's better than what you have. So you just keep chasing and you keep chasing and you never stop and reflect as to why am I even chasing this anymore in the first place? Why did I ever start down this path? If you don't stop to ask yourself why, then you're going to just that's a good warning sign in itself if you don't know why you're doing it anymore.
You should know what is your why, people. So on the psychology of achievement, Mr. Matt, how does the constant pursuit of external validation actually prevent us from developing stable sense of internal self-worth?
Yeah, I think it's when you're focused on the external metrics, it does a few things. I think first, it keeps you always living in a future state, even a past state. So you think about the past and how maybe you failed versus what you wanted, and then you start idolizing the future of what you want to achieve, and you find yourself always living in a time that is not real because the past isn't real anymore. It already happened. It's gone. The future hasn't happened, so how can that be real? So I think some of the dangers there is that you find yourself never living in the now and living in the present. And if you're not living in the present, then you're not really living at all. You're just kind of going through the motions. And yeah, so I think that is probably one of the biggest things I would say is not being in the present because you're always chasing something in the future is a big concern. And I think we'll probably talk about it later, but like in this one book I read that really reflected or that I reflected on strongly was this idea of in life you're really trying to acquire memories. You're trying to acquire experiences and things you can reflect back on because what else do we have when we're old and you know it, and it doesn't matter anymore. You only have your life experiences. All the money in the world doesn't really matter at that point, I think, if you haven't done anything with it at that point. So yeah, so I think the biggest sacrifice is not living in the now, and therefore you can't actually enjoy life because you're not present. You're not here. So how could you?
From psychological perspective, why does achieving a major goal often lead to a crash or feeling of this all there is, rather than lasting happiness?
Um, yeah, I think I think again it's because you're kind of chasing these extrinsic motivators, and you can't really find internal fulfillment with that because you're not like I often talk about even chasing things that you think you should want, but if they're not things that actually matter to you, then how could they leave you feeling in a better place when you've accomplished it? You know, because it's not something you actually want. It's something you were told you should want. So, from a psychology perspective, you're kind of always chasing and you never actually stop to worry about what matters to you intrinsically. And I think that is a big part of it.
Mr. Matt, on society and conditioning, how have our culture and social media platforms perfected the art of selling us as a definition of success that is almost guaranteed to make us feel inadequate?
Yeah. Yeah, I mean social media is a big one, right? You figure we only see what people want us to see, and uh living an average life where you're playing with your kids in the living room in your pajamas doesn't necessarily look as good as like all the glamour and these kind of staged things. So it sets this expectation. I think it sets these expectations of what our life should look like if it was ideal. So once again, we find ourselves comparing to that, which leaves us feeling a little bit empty. And because we're stuck watching those things and comparing to those things, we're never actually living in the moment, which is where we would achieve that actual experience in the first place. And you could go really down the rabbit hole as far as society expectations, but like I guess a preview of it would be that from a system perspective of trying to manage lots of people, say hundreds of millions of people, like there's certain ways you need to try to get people to conform. And one of the best ways to do that is to give them this kind of ideal state that they can chase. So they have hope that they can kind of chase after, but not really necessarily achieve and keep us with our wheels spinning to help keep things predictable. Um, so yeah, so I think that's part of it. And then also from a marketing perspective, they want you to chase these things too. So you buy and you consume and all that kind of stuff. So it's like when you stop to think about it and you think about the motivations behind a lot of what you see, it kind of makes sense that it's not real life, It's meant to keep you consuming. It's meant to keep you spinning your wheels. It's meant to keep you spending your money. It's not meant to help make you fulfilled and actually live a life that is meaningful to you.
Mr. Matt, how does dirty secret manifest differently for women who often face the added pressure of learning in at work while simultaneously being the primary caregiver at home?
Yeah, that's a good question. I think, hmm, you know, I have some thoughts on that, I guess, and I'll throw them out there, and you can take it or leave it. But I think from even like my wife, I think that when we had our children, there was actually an expectation that she had of herself that she shouldn't want to be just a caregiver and raising the children and stuff like that. Like there's almost a stigma that she should want more than that. She should want this big career and to make all these monies, and to be just the mother wasn't enough in a way, which is kind of crazy to me. Because again, it's not about whether or not you should chase a career. In my opinion, it's not whether or not you want to stay at home with the children, not whether or not you want to do either of those things. It's about having the awareness to know what it is that you want and not to let those external pressures kind of steer what you're doing. So I think the dirty secret of success, at least that I can think of from the perspective of a woman, is now you have that conflict, right? Because it's
Yes.
I should want all these things, maybe I don't want those things. Ugh, but I should want those things, and then you're caught in that battle. So it's not about what's right, it's not about what's wrong, it's about what is right for you because it's your life. You should set your own terms based off of your vision, and then that's how you should execute against it. And don't worry about the what other people think and expectations and whatnot.
Yes, don't care what people say about you. People care for yourself. And Mr. Matthew, as you guiding people to the hidden path, what are your short term and long term goals?
Yep. Yeah, exactly. And I think if there's one takeaway I'd probably want people to think of from this, is really about raising awareness about what's driving your actions. You know, you had mentioned earlier about starting with your why. I think there's a good book about that also as well. Um, and getting really, really clear and being able to articulate what it is that you want from your life. That's first. Is you need to have that vision. And the vision needs to be true. And the way you do that is you have to remove the noise of modern day living, the noise of the daily grind. You have to get enough space so you can gain the clarity to articulate and document that vision. But here's the thing, when you get very clear on what it is you want for your life and why it is that you want it, realigning your life around that starts to become pretty straightforward. The next steps start to become more obvious. The things that have made you feel like you're stuck start to erode away, and you finally start to make progress and traction because, again, now you have a North Star that you can actually move towards. And that's really the work I do, is to help people through that, to clear that noise, to gain that clarity, and to define what that life looks like. So that way they can start realigning around that accordingly.
And good luck to your goals, Mr. Matt, and looking forward for more success. And what will be your piece of advice for those people out there who want to be like you?
Oh man, don't. My piece of advice would be don't be like me. I think my advice would be like be like you, but first
Yes.
figure out what that means for you. What do you want to be? Who are you? In truth, not based off the expectations of your peers, family, or society. Find that first. That would be my advice.
Yes, and thank you for that advice, Mr. Matt. And can you please recommend a book or books that influence your journey?
Yeah, I think since I kind of referred to it, I'd probably say the Start with Why by Simon Sinek is a good one to check out. But the one that I think impacted me and I wouldn't have expected it to is the book Die with Zero. Very interesting perspective in that book. So Die with Zero, I would check it out. Quick overview is just the idea that money represents your time, right? You generated resources by trading resources. So if you die with extra money, then you've wasted time in your life that you could have spent doing something else, or you could have leveraged said money to having more experiences. So it's definitely an interesting book, unique perspective. Die with zero.
Die with Zero. Thank you for that recommended books, Mr. Matt. And on the challenges and liberation, what is the biggest fear that keeps people trapped in the golden cage of a successful but unfulfilling life?
Probably that. I think the biggest fear is fear of not being enough. I think is how I would sum it up. So
Yes.
the idea of the golden prison is your fear is that you're not enough, but maybe with the businesses or with the money, with the success, with the admiration, then maybe I can be enough. But as long as your measure of whether or not you are enough is based off of those things, then you will always stay stuck in that trap.
Yes, definitely. And Mr. Matt, how do you deal with judgment or confusion from others when you start to step off the conventional path of success?
Yeah, that's that's a great question because I've had lots of that in my life, man. Some of the crazy things I feel like I've done, but um again, I think it comes back to if you have a really damn clear vision of who you are and what you want from life and what that vision is, then all of that other judgment from friends, family, peers, it's just noise, you know? You know where you're going. You don't need that validation from them. So I think having the confidence of knowing where you're going helps you with dealing with that. And the other thing is, I've found that it's also exposes different relationships in different ways. The real people that love you will follow with you. They will still support you. They don't really care that much. And then you'll start to uncover maybe some relationships that weren't as healthy as you may have thought they were. And maybe that's a good thing. And that might be a sign that maybe they're not a part of that new journey that you're going on. And that's okay.
Yes, it's okay, people. It's okay. And how do you deal with, well, people want you to, let's say, grab mentality? They want you to not to be succeed in life. What are your recommendation for that?
Yeah. It's like a lot of people want you to be successful as long as you're not more successful than they are, kind of
Yes,
thing. Right.
yes, true.
Yeah. I think it's, again, that's an interesting dynamic because I think sometimes that might expose weaknesses in certain relationships that maybe aren't serving you anymore. And when we talk about realigning your life around that vision, sometimes it has to deal with those people too. Sometimes it has to deal with eliminating people who might be toxic and kind of bring you down. So, yeah, I think that, in my opinion, based off of some of my experiences, the people that genuinely love you do want you to succeed, regardless of how it compares to their own success. Um, So just keep doing you, and let it all shake out, but don't let that noise distract you from your mission and where you want to go.
What role do practices like mindfulness, gratitude, or introspection play in overcoming the emptiness of external success?
It's huge, man. Yeah. So for me, I could say, like, personal anecdote is like, for the longest time I was like chasing success, that part. And
Yes.
even when I became aware that that wasn't it, I went on this journey of trying to figure out what was it. I spent more money than I care to admit on coaches, therapists, frameworks, courses, reading books. Like, what am I missing here? And I dug and I researched and I went. And the the funny part is, only when I started becoming more aware, only when I started to work on mindfulness and introspection, only when I allowed space for myself to think, only when I turned inward was I finally able to get the answers I was looking for. So I think that a lot of what you're looking for, a lot of the answers, when you think about, well, what is that vision, or what is my purpose, or what is my identity? I think the answers live within you. If you could just hear yourself, you would find the answer that you're looking for.
Yes. And if you could redefine success, Mr. Matt, for our culture today, what would the new definition be?
I would say living life on your terms based on your vision is success. Success is subjective and it's based on, actually, I'll give you a better, more clear answer. Success is living a life based on your authentic truth, period. If you want to be a snail farmer, go for it. If you want to, like, whatever it is, it doesn't matter. Just live your truth. That's success in my mind.
Very well said, Mr. Matt. And before we wrap up our discussion for today, I'm inviting you to please do listen to my other podcast, people. My other podcast, because my Abstract essay is already in fifth season. Abstract Poetry in second season. I'm a Book 101 review in fifth season too. Comedy 101 in second season. And my Food 101 in fifth season as well. Geography 101 in fourth season. I'm a Baby Podcast Law 101 and Mental Health 101. Love Letters in third season, and Movie 101 review and Music 101 and fourth season, and Science 101 and Sex 101 in its first season. Please listen to them wherever you listen your podcast. So, Mr. Math, finally, what is your message of hope for everyone who recognizes themselves in this dirty secret? What is the first step toward building a life that's not just successful but truly satisfying?
Yeah, I would say my message would be that you're not alone, you're not broken, and You don't have to stay stuck. You can continue to move forward, but Start with start with awareness and really trying to figure out what it is you want from life. But you don't have to stay stuck. There is a path forward, and yeah, just have the courage to go after it.
Yes, indeed, Mr. Matthew Strong. Thank you so much for sharing your knowledge and wisdom to the world. So, can you please invite our listeners to support your business, your projects, or anything that you want to promote on Book 101 Review?
Yeah, I think the best thing is check out the website at illumashift.com. So it's normally where I'll put everything. I'm actually in the process of launching a new YouTube channel, and once that's live, I'll put that on the website as well. So yeah, I appreciate your time, and this was great. Thanks for having me on.
Yes, indeed. And one more, Mr. Math. Can you expound this phrase on your website? Your life, your terms, your vision.
Yeah, I think it's your life, and ignore the expectations of others. Set your own expectations. That's your terms, so that you can clearly see the vision for what you want. And when you do that, you finally start living instead of just going through the motions.
Mr. Matthew Strunk, let's support him because if you support him, for sure, there is a lot of people will find the hidden path. So, Mr. Matthew, thank you so much for your time.
Yeah, likewise. Thank you.
More to come, people. See you soon.